Hey everybody, in this episode of the X-Files After Show, we're breaking down Season 11, Episode 8, Familiar. Get your salt ready, folks. Make yourself a little circle. We're going to be doing some really creepy stuff inside there next.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Salt all over the table.
Welcome everybody to the X-Files After Show. Things that you want to do in rehearsal that you don't want to do during the actual thing here. There's a lot of salt on this table.
Put it in a circle.
Yeah, that's right. But there you go. I'm going to step inside it. I'll be safe for this entire episode. We're breaking down every episode of the X-Files Season 11, airing Wednesday nights on Fox. I'm one of your hosts, Frank Moran.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys.
I am Mr. Chuckleteeth. Or I would be, were it up to me, but in fact, I am still Lex Michael.
And I am Jim, and I am really scared.
And of course, folks, you can always like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel. While you're there, give it a thumbs up. And Lacretia's got her computer up and running, which means the chat is up and running, so feel free to chime in.
You're
share
still
thoughts
over there
about it.
sweeping up salt.
Yeah.
Still sweeping. I'm multitasking.
It is a mess
Sweeping.
over here.
It is. It's actually, the computer is a great buffer. You cannot see.
As
all
long
the
as you don't
sweeping that I'm
burst
doing.
into flame, we are fine.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Wait a
I'll
minute.
just scoot over here.
Before we go in depth on this episode, just some general round robin thoughts about this. Jim?
My favorite of the season so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna say big hands up. I don't know if it's my number one, but I loved it. I have to, when I rewatch this season, I'll make an informal ranking in my head. But this, I think maybe more than any other episode this season for me, felt like classic X-Files.
Old school,
Yeah.
creepy X-Files, spooky Mulder is back, you know?
Plus, I like it too.
Oh.
So clever. Yeah, I'm a big horror buff, and that's why I really always like the funny or the scary ones. And, Lost Art of Forehead Sweat and this one were definitely my favorites this season. Because, yeah, we actually got supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was like pretty much like straight out of the 90s for this. Which I guess
Straight
is
out
good.
of the 90s.
Yeah, no, it was
All
good.
right, so
It
what
was-
were you mad about?
I wasn't really mad. It was just a nice, solid episode of the X-Files. It didn't blow me away, but it didn't disappoint me. It was just like, oh yeah, this is just like if it was during the original run, I'd be like, yeah, it was really just a good,
I'm
solid
gonna get
episode.
my grimoire and hex you, my guy.
What?
So that's how you say that book. I was wondering how you pronounced that.
No, but like what? I had a really good time. I want to know, Frank, where you got tripped up. So as we work through this, you got to tell me where all of the beef lies on this road.
Yeah, and I feel like I may be disappointing you with the lack of like specific beefs, like because it's not like it's like, man, gosh, I don't feel like this. Like the way that I felt like with Lost Art of Forehead Sweat, where I had built it up because it's a Darren Morgan episode. So
Right.
I already built it up within myself that it was going to be phenomenal. And when I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, okay. So for this, it was just a really nice, solid episode of the X-Files series. But I'm like, yeah, okay. This is what I could have seen like maybe in the heyday back in the 90s. And that doesn't make this episode any bad. But I feel like you were saying, you could just take this, drop it back in the 90s. And other than just like the age difference, I don't think any fan would think anything different. They're like, oh yeah, this just feels like we're right in the groove.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good group
Yeah.
to be in. That's a good group to be like season 6 or before.
Yes.
Yes.
Like, yes, Martha, it is a good thing.
Well, especially too, like I've been going back recently and rewatching the entire series on Blu-ray, and like right now I'm very early season 4.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
Yes.
by the way, I was talking to Lacretia earlier. I just last night rewatched Home. And
So good.
And so my girlfriend has never seen the X-Files, and we're watching it together. She had never seen the episode, and I'd never seen it in HD on a screen the size we were watching it on. And we're both sitting there going, "Oh my God, how did this happen?" Fox Network in '97 aired that, bonkers. But watching the original series again makes the juxtaposition of this episode with the original run, like it stands out so much more. How X-Files, like X-Files Prime, it feels.
Yeah.
But then also, like, we just got a big budget movie adaptation of It that I guess the X-Files folks really enjoyed. So we get a lot of Stephen Kingness layered over that as well. And as somebody who just recently finally got around to starting to read King, like that was also tickling my brain the entire time.
Well, yeah, and two, like, it's, you know, we're going back to, like, the 90s nostalgia. It was very Are You Afraid of the Dark to me as well, with the Mr., you know,
Chuckle Teeth.
Chuckle Teeth.
I had that. Do you know what that made me think of? Was
I'm thinking of a
Goosebumps.
hockey player. Yeah.
That made me think of Slappy from Goosebumps.
Yeah,
and, like,
very much like Slappy, yeah.
and when I first discovered Goosebumps, I was at exactly the right age for that dude to not be okay with me. So Mr. Chuckle, the second I texted Lacretia, I was like, LMFAO, Mr. Chuckle Teeth. This rules. This little Georgie stand-in, this poor kid is about to get chuckle-toothed. Oh, goodness.
Chuckletooth to me was scarier than the It Clown. It was the most nightmarish thing I've seen on TV in a while.
Yeah, he was creepy looking, and that's what I liked. I'm like, this is a scary little thing. And
but I also like, much like Pennywise in it seems like, okay, so whatever this entity is, it just takes the title familiar, obviously referring to like the witch's animal companion. It keeps taking familiar forms depending on who it is trying to lure in. So I like that. Yeah, maybe it's Mr. Chuckleteeth. Maybe it's Hound of Hell. You might see. Maybe it's a person like a siren, like luring sailors to the rocks. Maybe it's a weird Teletubby thing. What were the Binklewinks? What were they called?
Teletubbies have always been scary to me. My entire life I've been afraid of them.
Right, and these look like Eugene spliced Tinky Winky with the Dark Elves from Thor 2, and I was not okay with them either.
Yeah, that was great.
The eyes were just so weird and dead.
Yeah, they were so creepy. I'm like, you let your kids watch this? No wonder they died. Like, you're bad parents. God.
Oh my gosh.
It's not the curse. It's not the murder curse that makes her a bad mom. It's the scary Teletubbies and Mr. Chuckleteeth.
Well, you know, chicken or the egg. Which one came first?
Well, because at least with the Teletubbies, for the little that I've seen of it, they do feel like there's some semblance of some kind of narrative where things are happening around them. But for these guys, they were just like in some weird Technicolor kind of green screen, just like bouncing back and forth. Like that was just it for an episode.
Right. It does make you consider, right? You take a step back though. How do you know? I haven't watched much Teletubbies. I was like, by the time Teletubbies happened, I think I'd aged past it. But like, what is
way
that?
aged.
Yeah.
Like, what's that? The baby is a son, and they just like
the
frolic.
baby and the son is also creepy with the big face staring down at everybody, and it goes away.
I've seen that, but
that's enough. That's what nightmares are made of.
But I guess Frank, to your point, like, what is this? What are they, Binklewinks or whatever they call them in this universe?
Frank has a kid. Like, tell us about these children's shows.
They were Bibble Tickle.
Bibble Tickles or something like that. And it really makes me take a step back, and I'm like, is this the type of thing, obviously minus the like Satan magic, is this that different from what these kids shows are? Is it literally just like colors and like laughing weird creatures bouncing around for half an hour?
Nah, not, I mean, at least there is some semblance of trying to impart some kind of basic educational kind of content to you. Because I feel like, especially like if you're trying to get kids engaged, I feel like the first thing is you want to have a face that is kind and caring, and those things with those weird black dead eyes.
Right.
Like, what kind of parent is going like, yeah, man, this looks like a I was like, no, we're not watching this with his weird dead eyes. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, whatever happened to stuff like Blue's Clues? I'm glad it's coming back, and I hope to audition for the host of Blue's Clues.
Is it really coming back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I always wanted to be Steve when I grew up.
No, if you take over, right, you can merge your brand with the Blue's Clues brand, and the dog would have to be green, but it would be very exciting because you would search for clues while completely ripped on edibles, and everyone would love it.
And that's exactly what Steve always did to do that.
And you wouldn't have to tell the kids, so it'd be
Yeah.
layered, right? It'd be good for kids, but the adults would be like, she's high as shit.
Well, yeah, and two, it's like, you know, that's at least, you know, better for children than these creepy things.
Right, and we can black out both of your eyes. Coming back to creepy Teletubbies.
Exactly, it always comes back to that.
So is this what it's like mostly?
No, there's there is like Cesar Millan's son has a show that's terrible.
Wait,
Dog
the Dog
Whisperer?
Whisperer?
Yeah, he's got this show. It may not seem like it, but it does feel like it's like 15 minutes of him introducing the other dogs that are going to be on the show with him, and it's so slow. It is such a slow. It's a terrible show.
Is it
My
like
nieces love that show.
Oh,
is it like a bit he's doing, or
No,
is he
he's-
just doing intro riffing for 15 straight minutes?
well, no, it seems like it's 15, but it's probably like 2 or 3 minutes.
Does he have the black mascara eyes?
No, that'd be great if he did. Like that's required from children's programming now. Black in my eyes. No, it's just a bunch of real dogs and then one puppet dog, and they do various.
Wait, there's
like,
a puppet
educational
dog?
things. Yeah, of course.
This took a turn.
Yeah.
There's a puppet dog.
Does the puppet dog have chuckly teeth?
No.
Is the real dog like a hellhound? Yeah.
There we
That'd
go.
be cool.
He does have to put that
Bringing
puppet
it
to
back
sleep
around.
at the end of every episode.
By the way, that dog. I don't know what. I'm just leaving that now. Here's my exit. The dog. Okay, the dog was it was a practical dog, right?
Yeah.
That they maybe augmented a little bit. I thought this is maybe like a weird thing to fixate on. I actually thought the dog was incredibly striking, and I feel like you see a lot of black dogs as the specter of death in so many different stories, and I feel like they never pop the way this dog pops. I don't know who his agent is, but I bet he's going to work a lot after this.
That's true.
Wait, do you think it was a real dog?
I feel like it was a dog that
At
they
least parts of
augmented.
It felt ish, like
Yeah.
it was dog-ish. It felt like maybe it was a dog that was enhanced, but like when it was attacking, I don't know if it felt real or not. It felt
Maybe not during the attacking, but certainly that scene where it's by himself in the forest, kind of showing himself to Mulder.
Yeah.
It did feel like a real dog with maybe some kind of tweaks in the
CGI
effects.
enhancements. Yeah.
But we've talked kind of about some of our favorite moments here, but let's delve into the episode in particular. A few different storylines, but it's a pretty simple story where it takes place in Connecticut in a small, sleepy town.
Like they always do.
As always, that has had witchcraft at its center since its inception.
Back in the witch trials were there.
Yeah, exactly. And we see a little kid who's a fan of Mr. Chuckleteeth singing a song, going around a little merry-go-round, holding that doll. Then sees him in the forest, follows him out there, and it doesn't end well for that little kid.
No.
A lot of two kid deaths.
Oh, can I
in
say?
this
Can I
episode.
just call that out right now? That's pretty ballsy. It seems like in the past 20 years I'm going to sound like the worst person ever by saying this, but we've gone away from showing any kind of violence towards children, which is not a bad thing. But back in 1975, when Jaws ate the kid on the raft, you knew it was a different kind of movie, and you knew it was like a scary movie. Different kind of movie, and I think it maybe has created the space now that they felt comfortable showing this, perhaps. But I just thought that was a bold move. And I'm not saying I'm for violence towards children, not at all.
Really?
But
because it is your website.
it sounds like I am.
Yeah, Frank is
Tear them
definitely
kids
down
up.
with
But you know how
murder.
like
Tear 'em
sometimes
up.
anytime there's a kid in a movie, they'll be safe and nothing's ever going to happen to them. It seems like, but this episode they were not safe at all. Like
No.
even like and they were so stinking cute, both kids. Especially that little girl looking in her eyes, and you're like, "There's no way they're gonna harm this kid."
Well, yeah, but she also seemed kind of out of it too. So
Are you criticizing this poor child actor?
she was glassy-eyed, and I don't know because she's watching those
Are you accusing this child actor of being high at work?
I'm not accusing her of being high, but she was glassy-eyed. She was just like, I was like, okay, all right.
These are pretty severe allegations, Frank.
Yeah, you were tarnishing her character here.
I'm gonna just say,
Yeah.
she's so good. She made me feel like she had checked out.
I love the actress who played her mom, though. I know her as Siobhan on General Hospital. She was Lucky's Irish wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Bring it back to our other show.
So of course the child dies, and they find him the next day. He happens to be the son of one of the law enforcement officers of that town.
Which is how the FBI was able to take jurisdiction on this, which was kind of like a flimsy way to get the X-Files involved, I thought, but still, it worked.
Well, because it is interesting. The death of somebody of a law enforcement officer's child is reason enough for the FBI to kind of come in.
Had we ever touched on this in decades of this show, or a decade plus worth of seasons of this show? Anyway,
It is interesting because that's, and I guess you could, depending on what your angle of a show is.
I guess to be fair, they've been busy.
Yeah.
True, but almost like many cop shows, when somebody dies, you don't really see the FBI coming in to take over
never
those
do.
cases. But it's
Right.
not really an FBI show; it's that police show. So you're going to focus on those
Yeah,
characters.
and on Criminal Minds, they always have some flimsy reason to bring them in. It's like, when it is
Right.
an FBI show like that, it's like, they're here because of blah, blah, blah.
I just like the idea that they could have been doing this every other week for their entire careers, and they just always had, like a fluke man or a were-monster to deal with. But this week, they just didn't have anything. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take the dead kids.
I know it did seem like it wasn't. They weren't really taking on an X-File. It just happened upon them.
Right.
Because I feel like they kind of, as the more they investigated, the more it kind of comes across as an X-File. But I'm wondering what it is at first that makes them think like, yeah, this is something we should be looking for our son. No, wait, let's go to the sleepy.
But even if they called in the FBI, why the X-Files agents? Why Mulder and Scully?
I think it's because it was like an animal attack, and Mulder was probably like, it's Bigfoot.
It's
It's
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
I'm gonna
Can we
get
do it?
Bigfoot
Can we do it?
But not in Connecticut.
So
He doesn't
might- he
have to
might
be in
travel.
the Pacific Northwest.
He's got an Expedia.
This
Yeah.
is true.
Yeah.
that's so. Of course, through the investigation,
I'm acting like I'm an expert on Bigfoot here.
we do kind of default back into the in terms of the characters, kind of the classic Mulder and Scully kind of interaction here, where Scully is just more of the practical person, and Mulder, he's just willing to go like full deep into like hellhounds and whatnot.
But I also really love in this episode the moments where you see, once again, and I think they've been doing an excellent job with this season, you see the history between the two of them, and you see the way it has shifted their dynamic ever so slightly in the
Right.
way that they play off of each other. Even if it's just little ways that they tag up on what each other's statements. Like even in the opening scene where they first show up and they're trying to discount Scully's input, and Mulder's like, no, she's also a medical doctor and she's very good at her job. You zip it. I like moments like that.
Yeah, because that was a very good moment for Mulder and for Scully, because it's like, yeah, seriously, like, Scully's a doctor. I mean, she probably introduced herself as that, and they're, like, dismissing, like, these clearly, like, thought-provoking behavioral analysis statements, too. It's just like, wait a minute, like, this is, like, real stuff
But
here.
the thing was a little bit confusing to me about that is like I love that, but isn't Mulder the specialist in murders and well, in the pilot episode, what was it he did his thesis paper on at Oxford? He was like,
Monty Props?
no,
Was that the killer that he did the...
something like he's the
Profiler?
profiler. That's the
There
word.
we
go.
He's world renowned as a that's where his name Spooky Mulder came from. He's the profiler, but in this one, he kind of like gave that away to Scully, which is interesting.
I mean, he's got hellhounds on the mind. Can't be completely be focused. But I even do like with Scully in terms of like Mulder's his leaps and intuitions, where if you'd been with this partner for this amount of time, you still wouldn't have that fire to necessarily negate or dispute or poke holes in everything that he has to say. You're like, yeah, okay, all right, that's
Here we go again.
But you can have them continue to bust each other's balls a little bit too. Like when they talk about Scully's got that line about like, and we've established, like just in passing slips into the conversation, and we've established that people do not spontaneously burst into flames.
Love the line.
Going, yeah.
Have we established that?
I think we all have established that because that was something a little fun to learn. And you know what? If you also want to have fun, learn, and grow in all aspects of your life, we're here to help. We've got a podcast for you. Conversations with Maria Menounos, podcast edition, is hosted by our AfterBuzz TV founder, Maria Menounos, and drops every Friday on iTunes. Conversations with Maria Menounos features celebrity and influencer interviews, along with secrets and tips on how to be better in all aspects of your life, from health and wellness to career and relationships, finances, and more. Let Maria be the big sister you never had. Just go to iTunes and subscribe to Conversations with Maria Menounos for free. Guess it's free. We're giving this back to you, the fantastic and loyal listener. Just go to iTunes and be sure to rate and comment. And when you do, let Maria know it was us who got you there. Conversations with Maria Menounos, podcast edition. Check it out.
Yeah, be sure to tag Happy Go Jackie in those tweets saying, it was his words.
Do you know
that got
who's an
there.
influencer? Is that at Happy Go Jackie?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I do just want to point out for those of you who are not watching the show, you're only listening. Actually, camera angle won't even pick this up. Frank has formed a circle of salt around his mic stand.
Yep,
Let it be known that he is in fact actively attempting to insulate himself from hexes.
Here we go.
Well, because Frank did find out I was a little bit into witchcraft when I was younger the other day. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Set that up.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm gonna.
Doop-doo.
I am safe as
Yep.
long as I stay within this salt line around my mic.
You're good.
Everything I gotta say is all right. So I mean, I can understand why some of the town folk, I mean, even in 2018, may be reluctant to kind of embrace Scully's kind of thoughts about the whole case. If it's a small town, something like this probably, it's weird. Probably hasn't happened, but also it does have a deep history of witchcraft. So whether it's like that was happening in the past, we're not like that. That was hundreds of years ago. So it does feel like they're a little reluctant to fully buy on to Scully's thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah. But it also feels like, would you, like in 2018, be so, just ready to kind of dismiss her thoughts?
Would I personally? No, but I also watch a lot of TV. I do totally get, right, if what they're both suggesting ultimately is that this child and then these children were murdered by a member of the community, right? And if you're a very small town, even a town with a history of witchcraft, you can get it into your head because, you know, they weren't all alive back then. Oh no, that type of thing just doesn't happen here. So when you're faced with something like that and you're given the choice between, well, it was an animal attack, an animal did this, or something that truly ugly can happen in my community, it could even be somebody I know, I can understand fully how that might be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, and that's the thing about small towns, especially, you know, ones like this where there is that history. You know, they're looking for any other explanation than it is one of their neighbors.
Right.
And so they're willing to believe all sorts of insanity just so that they don't have to face the truth that where they live is not this little utopia.
Right.
Well, there are lots of secrets in this town, as we find out through the course of the episode. One being that the chief of police has happened to be sleeping with the mother of the boy who was murdered at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
Which, yeah, surprisingly, nobody's really ecstatic when that the information kind of like comes out to everybody.
No, but I love how clearly distraught he is over it when he finally tells them. Like, he makes a bit. It's like I've sinned. I've committed a cardinal sin. Like, he clearly takes it seriously. Not seriously enough to not do it in the first place, I guess, but seriously enough to feel bad afterwards.
Well, yeah, because he seemed to feel immediately guilty, and that's why part of me obviously knew that maybe he knew his wife was still into the witchcraft. I mean, they did have all those books and sort of things. So on some way, he sort of had said these things, like without saying them, that was what happened, because you know, whether he felt it was like his punishment for that, you know, by God or whoever, but you know, there was definitely guilt from the beginning.
Yeah.
Do you think the wife was into witchcraft, or just because she was so mad about what her husband had done, she had taken advantage of her husband's books and tried to do something with them?
That's a good question, because he seemed somewhat surprised towards the end. I mean, I guess, or did he know what was going on? Do you think he suspected the whole time what was going on?
I don't. Maybe. Well, didn't they have the witch books? They had the.
But they were his, though, weren't they? Well, she said they were his.
Yeah, that's true.
Because my thing is, right now, I could be completely wrong about this, because there does have to be, at some point, everyone who gets into witchcraft as a concept, I guess there does have to be a day where they wake up and go, I know witchcraft. But I feel like that's not the first thing you'd leap to if you hadn't had some awareness of it beforehand, because that's a big. I'm gonna magic him. That's what I'm gonna do. He did me wrong. I'm gonna magic that dude. I feel like, yeah, maybe not first on the list.
Yeah, when I was a little kid and started buying those books because I was really into like Buffy and the Craft, and you know, when you're Nancy every year for Halloween, like you want to like learn this stuff, so you go to Hastings and you buy these books. But yeah, you don't just start doing spells, because then you accidentally burn down Mazzios, and still think that to this day.
So I have a friend. She would not let her son watch it because she said, that show will get my kid into witchcraft. And I always told her, you're crazy, you're crazy. So you're saying it's true.
Oh, yeah. You know, that is the thing, is television had a great influence on my life. And so, you know, I went and bought books. But yeah, you don't just start doing fire spells in the beginning. Yeah.
It takes a few weeks.
Right. And like not for, so I lived in Salem, Massachusetts for a little bit. So I did. So I actually knew like a bunch of people, because I had a friend who worked at one of the witch museums. So I got a job at one of the witch museums. So I met a lot of people who are part of the Wiccan community. Some people who take it very seriously. I've met people who have the beard, they dress like Merlin, the whole deal. And one thing, the people that, at least in that community, who take it very seriously. Now it's not, you know, it's not like Harry Potter magic. It's all very much like, you know, positive intention, and you can sort of will things into being. But I bet if they had an opinion on this type of magic, A, they'd go, well, this is nonsense. But B, they'd go, if this was real, this type of thing would definitely be something you'd have to work up to.
Yeah, like that wouldn't just be like your first thing out of the bit. Yeah, and like you say, a lot of it is just, honestly, it's like women power, positive reinforcement. I mean, you know, sometimes you just go into podcasting, like Mrs. Brightside. Subscribe on iTunes, guys.
That's what she should have done. That's what she should have done. But she did almost seem caught, not to jump to the end, but she sort of caught like, she seemed to be surprised by what was happening almost a little bit, like it got away from her. So I don't know how advanced she was in her skills, but who knows?
No, you just start playing around and then accidents happen.
She Icarus.
Did anybody dress up like Julian Sands from Warlock?
No. Not that I remember,
That was a cool
unfortunately.
movie,
there were like there was one guy that I worked for who was built. He was like a tall, big dude, but he kind of dressed like Sherlock Holmes a little bit. Didn't have the hat, but like the rest of it. You can find him. I'll tell you about him later. You can like YouTube him. He's got a very like dulcet tones. He's actually, his voice is kind of captivating to listen to. But no Julian Sands and Warlock, but definitely like full on like Gandalf. Dude's name is Oberon.
Oberon. That's an awesome name. Hey, let me ask you a question, though. Like, based on your experience in Salem, this town here, we're trying to figure out why the town would not be so accepting of this, or they wanted to sweep it under the rug. I mean, what would something like this happening in Salem do to business in Salem and tourism in Salem?
Tourism probably wouldn't be helped, would be my guess.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe
yeah.
that's more kind of what the town
I don't know. That
thinking.
would make me more interested in it, because what I went to Salem like on vacation, like with my mom, and we were gonna stay in like the Hawthorne Hotel. It was like haunted. Then we were like so annoyed with the fact that a lot of stuff was just kind of phony and hokey, and we weren't seeing any real like
want
ghost
to see the real
stories.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we want to see the real stuff.
You weren't super hyped for the Bewitched statue.
No. Yeah, I know. I'm like,
Oh my
this is
gosh.
just a tourist trap.
Are you serious?
We were
There's a
so
Bewitched
mad.
Statue, yes.
Oh
But that's
my
it is.
gosh.
It's mostly touristy.
Yeah.
There are definitely some interesting people. And like, I don't want to sound like I'm being dismissive of that
Oh,
community.
they have a cool
'cause I
comic
met-
book store.
They do
Yeah.
actually. They do have a cool
Yeah.
comic book store. The Hawthorne is pretty nice.
Yeah.
I went to a wedding there. Like a second cousin got married there. But it's very touristy. Like there are a lot of very nice people, and there are a lot of college kids, and I could take or leave those. But the Wiccan community is largely very nice. It's just occasionally they'll start talking to you about unicorns, and you'll go, okay,
you go.
sure, we're here now.
Is the Bewitched statue her on the broom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. The and Lacretia, when did you first try to do your first kind of spell or summoning based on any of the books that you bought?
Oh yeah, well I remember like because of the craft and stuff, I would get my friends, like we would play light as a feather, stiff as a board, which was sort of like your opening to that and comping the movie. But yeah, I still distinctly to this day remember when we tried to do like some spell, and we really weren't really sure what it was, and we were on the trampoline. And that night, Mazzio's burned down, and they were the ones who put the pepperoni under the cheese, so I was pretty mad about that. So we are still certain that we burned down Mazzio's with that spell, even though we're not even sure what it was. Yeah, dun-dun.
And we still don't really have laws in place to prosecute magical arson.
Exactly. And, I was, what, 10, 11 at the time? I don't know.
See, and you couldn't
Yeah,
even.
come
I
on.
don't know what the statute of limitations on magical arson would be, but I bet
Exactly.
it'd be all right.
Yeah, because I'm like, I've read a lot of books, you've seen every episode of Buffy, seen The Craft like 100 times, Practical Magic, these things. That's education, guys.
Practical Magic is the Sandra Bullock one, right?
Yes.
Literally, the only thing I remember from Practical Magic is when like their aunts or whoever the older ladies are. I don't remember. Sandra Bullock. All I remember. And this is when like the dude who's the villain like they.
Aiden Quinn, and it should have been Oliphant, or no? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because he lost that job, which is a funny story.
You'll have to tell me about that story later. But the only other thing I remember from Practical Magic is when the villain guy, I guess, leaves the wine bottle, and the Sandra Bullock and
Nicole Kidman, yeah.
Okay, right. They were supposed to drink it, but the other ladies drank it, and they're all like messed up, and they're like, someone left it on the porch. That's the only other thing I remember. So every time I hear Practical Magic, I hear that in my head, and I feel it's like going mad again every time.
So,
Exactly.
As we're talking about small towns, the other thing too is it's easy to look for a guilty party and attack that with full force.
Frank was like, here's my exit.
Yep.
There you go. I'm gonna hop off that Practical Magic highway.
Yeah.
Get back to X-Files land. So we do find out that Scully kind of puts the idea in the father's head about like, hey, possibly this could be a sex offender. It could be, and so he looks out and finds that there's an unregistered sex offender living just a few blocks away from where the child disappeared.
Was
in the
she
woods.
irresponsible in doing that?
Well, yeah, because she doesn't tell him. She tells one of the other officers who
Right,
then
right.
shares it with him.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think so because you were working with another member of the law enforcement community.
You'd think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Telling the officer was not irresponsible. The officer telling him, even though he's a fellow officer, what did you think he was going to do?
I know.
I mean, especially when you're dealing with something as serious as child molestation. But two, did they even say what he was supposed to be on the registry for? Because that's what some people don't get. You can be put on that for like...
He was on for statutory.
Yeah, and it's like statutory is a little different than the children, and I don't think people realize that is like a preference thing. But I mean, I get in the heat of the moment, you're not going to think about that. But it was highly unlikely that this person was actually, you know, molesting these kids and killing them too. And it's like, just because he didn't register, who knows what was going on? Yeah, and it's like, but yeah, you
Plus,
know,
it's a
with
small
that,
town, and he just didn't want to probably, you know.
Yeah, but that guy did himself no favors by the way
No.
he decorated his home.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so run down, and he just keeps putting up just photos of him, you know, posing next to little kids.
And a lot of balloons.
A lot of balloons and a monkey in a closet.
It's definitely an
Yeah.
odd look, if nothing
Oh
else.
yeah,
Yes.
it was definitely creepy. But yeah,
That was one of the most disturbing scenes, I think, of the episode, if not the season. Just when they were going through the house and the different things they were finding. The monkey and the shoes and the balloons. You're like, oh my gosh, this is uncomfortable watching this.
They end up finding him, and there is a scene where it becomes like very much mob mentality kind of there, where
Yeah.
the officer starts beating him. You know, he would not have stopped if his partner hadn't come in to try to stop him, and then the mob wants a piece of him as well. So it just continues to keep going until Mulder and Scully show up, and it doesn't stop there.
well, and maybe this guy could be burned, you know, since he's already dead, and then come back in their dreams and be Freddy Krueger for a new episode, and
Well,
a continuation of this episode.
But it was interesting. This was kind of like a witch hunt. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
this was like a modern day witch hunt. They were trying this man. He was. They were calling him guilty before they even like had any kind of investigation. And Mulder really put a nose on that. I mean, he was really kind of calling that part out. And this was very much like the second movie they did, when they had the they had the pedophile priest who he was a pedophile, but he came back and Mulder was kind of it was kind of an uncomfortable movie there too, but like good things could come from this guy even after he had done
Yeah,
terrible,
sometimes they make
terrible
Superman
things.
Returns. I mean, you know.
Oh my gosh. I just thought it was interesting why they played with this kind of like guilty before proven guilty type idea with this type of crime twice.
Yeah. Also, not for nothing, they do not pull the punch on the gunshot to the dude's head.
Yeah.
Good
And
grief,
that
I
moment
know.
I went, all right, this does not feel like 90s X-Files.
No.
Yeah, I so was like, this was very much like a Seven moment going back to the, you know, that previous joke.
Krychek.
Yeah.
Krychek got the bullet to the head.
Yeah.
Fair point. But that
Yeah.
wasn't that like, that was early 2000s X-Files.
Yes.
Were any of
2002.
you surprised that he did shoot him? That
Yes.
it didn't just stop with him like, all right, I'm around everybody. I'm just gonna not, and we'll put him in jail, and someone will happen to him in the prison cell.
I thought that one death was unnecessary.
It definitely caught me off guard. I was not. I expect, because I feel like most X-Files episodes, that's where they would have stopped it. Like that would have
Yeah,
been enough
yeah.
to make the point.
Yes.
And then they went, oh no, we're gonna kill him. We're gonna cap the dude.
I kind of figured that he was going to die just because I knew that dad, I was like, it's not going to end with these kids, is what I felt. So I was like, okay. And then, of course, it kind of comes back around, because even though this guy was also, you know, it was his wife who was messing around on him, but you're like, oh, okay, they're just going to get this whole, you know, both couples. They're all bad.
Well, and two, there may have been a different way. So I mean, obviously, certainly that officer could have handled the situation a little differently, but there may have been a different way for the episode to handle that situation. But it did inform one of the moments in the episode that I most appreciated, which was the officer coming to Mulder and Scully and saying, I did not put on the badge to see people executed without due process.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I did like that it wasn't a whole town that kind of succumbed to that mob mentality, that there were at least one person, if not more, that we didn't see. They were like, whoa, this is crazy. What are we doing? So, yeah, we do find out, though, in the courtroom where they're saying, hey, this is what they have right now is a very convenient story where we kind of essentially caught the bad guy, for lack of a better term. So we could see this cop kind of get off scot-free because we've already kind of closed the case in a sense. And who knows if that would have been the case. We never get to see that far into the story, but it's at least enough for him to get bail and be released on his own recognizance, which then leads us to the rest of the episode, where it doesn't end pretty for pretty much any of the town members
No,
involved.
we really did kill the crap out of a whole bunch of people, and we did so pretty violently.
Yeah. It was like, you know, what is familicide? I mean, both families are completely dead out of this episode. Yeah, I was like, cool.
That's why you don't mess with the curses, because the warnings usually come after the
Yeah,
spells.
they're gonna kill your whole family. That was the fine print. You know, it's like the iTunes for Human Centipede. You know. Oh, that's a South Park thing. I was like,
So, do we think that the wife that had been cheating with the captain had been? Did she survive the car crash?
No.
The hellhound got her and then dragged her out and then killed her in the woods. Or was
Oh,
she
yeah,
already
'cause
dead and then just dragged her out into the woods?
This is true because she was not in the car. She was out. So just to explain, she was in her car, kind of drunk. She thought she saw her son. The car flipped, and then we saw the hellhound coming.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happened.
And hellhounds love to kill women on these shows. I mean, Supernatural, that's how, like, half the female cast has died. Like, yeah.
I think she got dragged
Yeah.
out by the hellhound.
Yeah, most likely. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Right,
what
right.
Yeah.
Hellhounds, for sure. Oh, now I'm on the broadcast. Hey, guys, Steve Booth.
Hey.
So it all ends in kind of classic X-Files fashion where we see some supernatural shenanigans happening, and Mulder and Scully are just far enough away
Yep.
to get there only at like the very last moment where you can like, well, it could still be open to interpretation about exactly what's happened.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's the classic Scully happens to be unconscious at the exact moment the UFO
Yep.
flies over.
Yep.
School of X-Files storytelling.
At least she was conscious for all of that. So they, I mean, for this. So they get there, everything goes bad. The wife's in a circle. She's been behind the whole
Circle of what?
circle of salt, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, get your salt.
Circle of salt, and it cleanses all.
Yeah, there we go.
That wolf attack, though, on the
was
captain. though.
gnarly.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And I didn't really see that coming either. I thought surely this man who has owned up to his mistakes, the one
The one
character,
decent
right,
person in this,
Yep.
kind of.
who made
The one
a mistake.
confessing his
Yeah,
sins.
he's like, I've sinned. This is all my fault.
I was like,
yeah.
surely that's enough for this man to have to live with all that has happened that he holds himself partially responsible for, and then nope, his jaw is ripped off by a hellhound.
Yes.
Because had he killed anyone specifically? Oh, he did kill the guy.
Yes.
The other guy.
But he had his, but I mean, the other guy was drawing on him too. So
True.
kind of in self-defense,
Yep.
even though he, by sleeping with his wife, kind of set it all in motion.
Yeah.
But of course, the wife, she can't control the power. She bursts into flames. She dies. The book, the
Bonkers.
grimoire, doesn't get touched at
Right.
all.
No.
It lives on to haunt another day.
That's right. Yeah. So, do we feel everything's closed up in that town, or is just the idea of the merry-go-round kind of tweaking? Is like,
Nothing's just closed up. in
No,
that
the
clown.
child molester is coming back and haunting the kids' dreams.
Wait,
I already wrote this.
But the thing about that
Or
was
Wes
interesting.
Craven
I
did.
think like what was interesting in the story is the child molester was not even like he wasn't there. He was 40 miles away. So it's like the episode made you feel bad for the statutory rapist.
Yeah.
That's,
It's a level. It's different. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know what, I mean,
Matt Damon, they don't let him say it, but I'm a woman. I'm allowed to say it. There are levels.
Okay, we'll let you say that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was interesting the way you're feeling sympathy for the most unsympathetic characters, and that was just, to me, that was great writing,
Yeah.
the way they did that, because they were presenting these ideas of innocent before proven guilty, or guilty without a trial, and people who had nothing to do with what was going on. And it's almost like there was a curse on the town, because like we were talking about, so many people were killed. Maybe there was a statement of, and they weren't killed, all of them, by supernatural forces. There was a lot of bullets flying, car wrecks, although that was probably the dog. But it was like the town is cursed, you know?
so I mean, I guess my thought about just feeling like this episode could slot easily into any kind of 90s seasons for the X-Files. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? In the sense where, has storytelling gotten sophisticated since those 90s episodes that you want to see this story tweaked a little bit, or just the kind of more upfront and with the violence and whatnot? Is that enough? Was there enough kind of updating to a 2018 sensibility that you feel like, yeah, this is this is definitely kind of a little step up than what we would have seen in the 90s?
I think The Walking Dead has caused there to be more severe violence, like the hellhound ripping at the throat, and you see the throat ripped. That's a Walking Dead moment. But other than that, it was a sophisticatedly written show, I thought.
Yeah, and it juggles a lot of ideas. And
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and watch it again and really try and follow each thematic or conceptual thread to really be able to determine if, for me, it juggles all of them with expert efficiency. But the fact that it's able to throw that many ideas into the pot at once and not feel like a mess, I think is a testament to the sophistication of the writing. And yeah, like, it really did. It feels like a 90s episode with a very updated aesthetic. And do I necessarily want all of my X-Files episodes to be full of like dogs ripping throats out and people getting shot in the head like full frame? Not necessarily, but I'm not opposed to it. It didn't feel it didn't feel overindulgent. Even the dog mauling the dude, it felt like how shook I felt was very much intended and was very much part of the power of the story.
Yeah, everything just really hit so well in this episode. That's why I say it was one of my favorites, just because it's like, all right, it felt nostalgic, but also updated and in line with what was going on. And just there was just a lot of cool moments and fun throwbacks. And yeah,
plus the moments they talked about. Mulder, do you have a son? I have, yes.
Yeah.
And he's grown.
Yeah.
That was just a haunting moment right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like all of the Mulder's reactions to the dead children in this episode, like you could see, like he doesn't fall apart, but you could see that he's really affected. Because
his sister was killed by a child killer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember? And she was buried in a field.
Yeah, and I'm surprised.
Turned into starlight. I hated that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't mention her, but it was good to hear him mention William, and you could tell that this really started to resonate with him as a father. And we've gotten a lot of Scully's perspective as a mother, but not so much Mulder. And so this was a good, and it was done subtly without taking away from the episode.
Yep.
Jim, you've complained about the lack of a good monster of the week. Does this scratch that itch you're looking for?
Yes, and it was supernatural. It wasn't a stinking drone. It wasn't somebody's lost in a computer. It was a monster this week. I loved it.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of the X-Files After Show. We've only got 2 episodes left.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, the next week looks to be another standalone, and then we get My Struggle 4, which...
You're looking forward to it.
I'm not looking forward to it at all. I can telegraph my displeasure.
Did you see the next week on? Because I did not.
Yes, it almost feels like a vampire-esque, a Vampire Slayer-esque episode.
Yeah, it was like very much like, is this either going to be really good or really cheesy?
Wasn't the last time we did vampires on this show the season 2 episode 3, the one where Scully's gone? Wasn't it that one? Most people don't like that one. So maybe this is the redemption story. Is vampires and X-Files finally coexisting harmoniously?
We'll find out together next week. Until then, like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody, for hopping in the chat. And if you want to continue the conversation with any of us after the show's over, Jim, where can they find you?
You can find me at ConGuyJim.
I am all over social media at the Lex Michael. I also do a podcast called Missing Out with Tari J. Miller, where we talk about art, media. We share our experiences, our perspectives, why some of the art we talk about resonates with us the way it does. It's the retrospective that's introspective, and you can find it wherever podcasts can be found: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, and on Twitter at Missing Outcast. Come check it out. We love you. Mwah.
All right, and since I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys, you can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one. And while you're subscribing to Conversations with Marie Menounos, type in Mrs. Brightside as well and subscribe to that one. That's my podcast where it's a little bit of positivity, thinking about the bright side of life. That's probably why Happy Go Jackie hasn't come on there, but feel free to tweet him for what you think he should talk about the bright side of, and I'll eventually get Lex and Jim on there as well.
It is really happening.
Yeah, this week I have Mr. Dave Child on, so be sure to listen to that. New episodes every Tuesday.
He's smiling.
That's right. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Happy Go Jackie. I've got a lot of salt to clean up, guys. So we'll see you back here next Thursday night with another episode of the X-Files After Show right here on AfterBuzz TV.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Salty Frank.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.